For months, you guys have been commenting on my YouTube videos, telling me to try Wylde Flowers because you love it so much. So I finally gave it a go, and this is what I think about it. Now, full disclosure, the reason why I didn't pick it up until the last few months was actually because of my life circumstances being very close to some of the topics in the game. But once I saw on Twitter that they announced yet another free update, I finally felt like it was time for me to pick it up. And around the time I started to fall in love with it, Wylde Flowers approached me and asked if I'd do this sponsored video. So gladly, I said yes. So let's talk about how Wylde Flowers has become not only one of my favorite cozy games, but also one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games of all time. At first, Wylde Flowers appears to be like almost every other farming sim on the market. You move to a town where you know absolutely no one, as your grandparent is sick, and you are needed to look after the farm. And right when I was gearing myself up for the classic farming sim beginning, you find out your gran is in fact still alive, which really threw me off. I wasn't expecting that. And whilst this does contain all the classic things that make it a farming sim, with seasonal crops, fishing, mining, crafting, cooking, you name it, if it's in a farming sim, it's here. But it's literally so different to every farming sim I have ever played. Like, for example, just take the beginning of the game. You don't even play as yourself, you actually play as Tara, a young woman who, after being dumped and hearing of her gran's ill health, decided to leave her home in the city to start a new life back on the farm. And what I thought was going to be a standard farming sim turned into being a beautiful story about a young woman who came to the island to help her gran, and wound up finding her new home instead, with a little bit of magic thrown in for good luck. Once you get a little bit into the story, you find out that not only is your gran a witch, but there's also an entire coven of witches on the island, and it turns out you're also a witch as well. And especially for me, someone whose current life story very much parallels the start of Tara's, there was something so healing about joining Tara on this journey, where she embraces who she is, finds the power in chosen family, and who finds happiness after everything she's gone through. This was truly a game I didn't even know I needed until I picked up and I played it, and honestly, it's been a really special journey for me. Now, although I've compared this to other farming sims, I don't actually think farming sim is the right way to describe this. I'd say it's more of a life sim with farming sim elements. And honestly, it's been so refreshing to see a farming sim-like game with such a heavy focus on story. The story itself is focused around your journey with magic and the town's relationship with the cult, which heavily control all the happenings in the town, including each of the seasons. But the thing I loved about the story the most is the way it was written means that you get to know each and every one of the townspeople through how they react to the events of the story. And this is only made even better with the fact that every single one of the characters is fully voice acted, with there being literally no interactions in the game with other characters that aren't voice acted. And to me, this addition of voice acting in a farming or life sim has made the game come alive in a way I really didn't expect. And the story was written so beautifully and tackled some humongous topics that I found myself crying on multiple occasions because of the care and attention put into the writing. But the nice thing about a story like this in a game with farming and life sim elements is it really ties everything together and gave the farming a purpose, as you needed the farming produce for more than just money. This brings us on to the magical elements. Now, obviously magic plays a big part in the story, but it also comes with huge quality of life features as well. And it also means that you are farming without consequences as well, which I love. Like, for example, if you forget to water your crops one day and you've seen they've wilted, you can just go make a spell that turns back time, use it on the crops, and they'll be good as new. You can also make potions that help your plants grow more produce or help your plants grow faster. You can also craft a spell that makes you run faster. And one of my favorite things is the crystal ball. Now, if you're used to playing farming sims, you might know that it's almost impossible to figure out what someone's favorite gift is. 99% of the time, I'll just go to the wiki, look up my favorite character, see what their favorite gift is, and go from there. But in Wylde Flowers, you just use a spell to find out what someone's favorite food is. I love it. You can also set up robots that do things like mine for you, water your plants, tend to your animals, because yes, there are animals as well, we're getting to it. And also get one to fish for you, meaning that you can really focus on the story if you want to. And every single spell you brew will require you to do the typical farming sim stuff. You can tend to your farm to get certain crops for the spells. You can also forage all around the island for different stuff. There's also a mine you can go in, which doesn't have any combat in, which I love. And you can also fish, craft, and make produce as well. Characters around the town will also have quests for you, and that will often require items in a similar way. And the nice thing about the tasks is they make sense as well. The characters will ask you for an item, but they'll also tell you why they need them, and sometimes you'll even see the consequences of them using them as well. To me, the combination of huge life sim elements and also farming sim elements made a world that just felt more succinct. I feel like I can't talk about Wylde Flowers without talking about the characters, as they are genuinely one of the biggest strengths to the game. As I said, Wylde Flowers leans more heavily into the life sim aspects, so I think this part is more important than maybe a typical farming sim, and thankfully they knew this, as it's done incredibly well. In fact, this is the first ever farming sim-like game where I have dated a character. I went as far as to marry someone in Wylde Flowers, and despite my hours upon hours in farming sim games, I have genuinely never even made friendships in a typical farming sim, let alone spent enough time with a character to marry them. I think it's something to do with every character being voice acted that made the friendship cutscenes you got with them feel so alive and make me feel like I know the characters way more than I ever have in a different farming sim. And because this has a heavy story with cutscenes in it as well, you get to learn so much about each of them in a way I don't typically see in farming sims. And it really did bring the pixels on my screen fully alive. This is also a testament to the incredible writing. I felt like I knew each and every character personally. You get to hear their backstories, their current life struggles, their likes and dislikes, among their reactions to everything that happens in the story that makes them feel like fully fleshed out people. And if that isn't enough, they also have relationships with each other that you also get to see be played out. One cool but slightly devastating thing I found out was the fact that once I finished the main story, I had kind of given myself a list of characters I was trying to choose between to date once the story was over. But it turns out I had waited too long. Two of the people I had on my list that I wanted to potentially date started dating each other, so they were no longer available for me to date. And don't get me wrong, I love that that exists. It gives me a whole new reason to start the game again and play through it. I was kind of devastated because it halved my dating pool. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a very story-based game, which got me a little bit worried about what happens once you finish the story. The main part of the story itself kind of takes place in the first year of the game, and that took me around 40-ish hours to complete. But thankfully, it doesn't end there. And this is where reviews that came out at launch are actually going to be outdated, as since launch, there have been 3 major content updates. The first one was the Endless Seasons update and romance, including a new spring event and the ability to have dates and spouse dialogue once you're married. The second update brought in Violet's boutique, which, side note, I'm so devastated you can't date Violet. Basically, Violet opens up a boutique in her flower shop, allowing you to craft and make brand new clothing items, and also introduced a camera mode as well, so you can take pictures in the game, which I enjoyed greatly. And then most recently, I think it was about a month or so ago, there was a farming update as well. By far my favorite addition to the game. This brought in a new event, a couple of new buildings, including a bigger greenhouse and a propagation building that allows you to get seeds for yourself instead of having to buy them. But more importantly to me, this brought in brand new animals and the ability to breed magical animals. And that is basically what I've been doing every night, all night for like the past 4 nights, trying to desperately get magical animals. Now, originally you could get chickens, cows, and sheep, but the update brought in ducks, alpacas, and pigs as well. And honestly, the pigs are one of the cutest animals I have ever seen. The way they do their little run around is so cute and adorable, and I love it. But as I said, the breeding has been a lot of fun. Like, for example, on my farm currently, I have a purple alpaca and a purple pig with wings. And it doesn't end there, because each season you can stand a chance at breeding different colored animals. I think one season gives you all rainbow animals, so I cannot wait for that. And even though the main story has ended, so far I have been inundated with quests that I could do long past it. I think I'm about 55 hours, maybe 60 hours into the game at this point. I still don't think I'm anywhere near actually finishing it. It's honestly a farming sim that's thought of everything, and you can really tailor it to be the experience you're after, with both menu options like the ability to change your in-game day length and the ability to use robots and spells to help you out with any aspects you don't really want to bother with, to the beautiful story and the incredible diversity in the cast of characters you get to meet and live with. And I really do mean it when I say this story truly did touch me in the way they dealt with topics that were very close to my heart. And it's this mix between the story elements and the slow-paced farming sim mechanics that has made this unlike any game I have played before. We have no idea at this point if they are planning on putting any more updates out, or if that's them completely done to go work on a brand new game. But either way, I can gladly say Wylde Flowers is one of my favorite cozy games, and a game hasn't made me feel this way about characters in a long while. So thank you for making it. And if you've bought Wylde Flowers, in the comments down below, let me know who you're dating. And if you want to see all the best cozy games coming out on the Switch in June, click this video here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.